Hello, everyone, and good night, good morning, depending on wherever you are. Our guest today is having quite an early morning. Anyways, welcome to WP Roundtable. I'm Jason Crawford, coming to you from Medellin, Colombia. Kyle.
Thanks, Jason. Hey guys, I'm Kyle, and I'm excited to be here on episode 74. Really cruising along here. It's another beautiful day, and we've got a great guest on the show. Very excited to be talking with Sunny. Sunny is a developer from London who does a lot of work with Easy Digital Downloads, and we're going to learn a lot more about him. So, Sunny, you want to say hi and introduce yourself?
Hey guys, Sunny here from London. 1 a.m. Late night, but should be a fun event. It's the
Yeah.
first interview actually. First time I've been on the podcast.
First time ever. Wow. Okay. So that's
Yeah.
fantastic. All right. Well, there's a lot we want to know about you. The first thing we're going to do before we ask all of our questions is we're going to share our quick picks of the week. So this is where each of us kind of tosses something out that we think is worth looking at. Usually something that's new that we've come across this week. And I want to share two quick things. One, a great blog post by one of my favorite people in the whole WordPress community. John James Jacoby, former guest of the show, wrote a blog post called Reputation. And I just thought it was a great post. I loved it. Super interesting. I always love John's perspective on things. So it's a good read. I recommend it. I'll drop a link in the Google Plus event for this show. And the other thing, just today, the WordPress community was kind of shaken because Alex King passed away, and we were all made aware of that today. So that was kind of a great loss to the community. Alex King is not someone that I knew personally, but definitely someone that I knew of. He had a huge impact on the WordPress project. He's been involved since the beginning and was the founder of Crowd Favorite, and had a lot of incredible accomplishments to his name, and a lot of people looked up to him. So great loss to the community, and that just happened today. So, Jason.
All right, well, I have started my own new tradition. I'm no longer doing picks of the weeks. I'm doing gripes of the week. And I don't know if you caught that last week since you weren't with us, but today it's Apple and apps I can't delete. So after telling my iPad not to update, it updated and added some stupid Find Your Friends app, and I can't find any of my friends with or without an app, so I wanted to delete it, and of course Apple's got yet another app sitting on my iPad that I absolutely can't use, and they won't let me delete, and I'm not very happy about that.
Sunny, do you have something to share?
One thing I have been following a lot is tutorials by Tom McFarlane. So he does a lot of writing for Envato and CodeTuts. I think that's what it's called now, CodeTuts Plus. And I mean, the tutorials he's releasing every week on WordPress are actually really stellar. So anyone out there just looking to brush up on their knowledge on WordPress, they should really go check out his tutorials. Really high quality tutorials, and I think a lot of them are all free as well.
That's awesome. That's a great recommendation. I totally agree. Any developer would just can't go wrong with those resources. So, Sunny, let's learn a little bit about you. Most of the people who may have heard of you at this point would know you from some of your work with EDD, some of the extensions that you've written, and from your excellent essay that you contributed to Hero Press, which was a great read. But why don't you kind of like catch everybody up, especially for those of us who don't know much about you or haven't read your essay, a little bit of your story, where you came from, and how'd you get where you are today?
So I'm born and raised in London. I'm 19 years old, so that did shock a lot of people originally when I told them my age. And I've been doing a lot of my work's mainly done with these digital downloads. And I really got into computers at a very young age, and then sort of just hacked away. You know how it is, finding tricks and tips and tricks, delving into the command line, that kind of stuff, just getting more and more interested in it. And then I finally decided I was interested by the web. and that was good, I'd say 6 years ago now. And that's when I started getting interested in the web, so making websites, that kind of thing. And well, from then on, I self-taught HTML, CSS, and then everyone was talking about this massive thing called WordPress, which I got really interested in back then. And obviously, it was interesting to read all the articles back then about WordPress because, again, it's not as large. Right now, it's huge. But back then, there was all these articles you'd always find about how WordPress was insecure or how people shouldn't use WordPress because it slows down your website. And it was actually quite unfortunate. There was quite a bit of negativity back then. But I just got into it. I saw Chris Coyer from CSS Tricks. He did a lot of tutorials on WordPress, and I think around the time I actually got interested into WordPress was around the time he did a full-on WordPress theme from scratch. It was, I think, one of his friends. So I just followed into that tutorial and then got into WordPress themes. It was actually fairly late until I got into plugins. Around, I think EDD was the first time I actually properly got into WordPress plugins. Before that, I had no idea what they were.
Wow, fascinating. So I understand that early on in your learning, you had a habit of kind of deconstructing programs, I think, or learning how programs worked and stuff.
Yeah.
So what were some of those programs, and how'd you go about kind of understanding everything behind them?
Main thing what I started was obviously learning all the syntax, and then as I was like just researching into different things, I came across other content management systems before I landed onto WordPress. So these were little basic ones that would do the simple super globals like $_get based on what's passed in the URL, and then query the database, something like that, taking them apart and then putting them together again, seeing if I could make it any better, seeing what I could do differently, and then I was really challenging myself, seeing what I could write. I made the mistake one day of trying to take apart WordPress core. That WordPress core is huge. Anyone out there, do not try it. And then it just more of an urge, really, just to see how things are built, how other developers are doing certain things. Is there better ways to do it? And that's kind of what really got me enthused, and it's what keeps me going today as well.
Very cool. So I understand that you had a client or a few clients maybe when you were getting started.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about those projects?
So my first actual client was, funnily enough, my primary school. I think they call it elementary school. So they had a really, really old website. It was something made in Microsoft Front Page and then just published on the web for like a good 8 years or so. So I went to them, and I also wanted some experience with it as well, with the web. So I was getting started into it. So I thought I'd go to them, ask them if they wanted a better website designed. Maybe, well, obviously a lot of parents were complaining as well back then about the website being made in Front Page and not being updated. And that's when I sort of took it on my own to create I didn't use WordPress back then. It was more of a hacky content management system. So something that ran really quickly and was something I built myself, nowhere near on the scope of WordPress. And so I built that out, and that was running for a good, I think, that was running until April of this year. And then they decided to go with another company to manage the website, as obviously being at school, it's difficult to try and manage everything and have multiple clients. So it did turn out in the end where I said to them that I wouldn't be able to make all the updates for them by this time. So by April of this year, it was actually running on, it was a full WordPress installation, and it was customized for their needs as well. After the elementary school, there was one client in Germany, a publishing company that I did a few customizations for. He was an EDD customer as well. He was selling audiobooks and ebooks. And after that, I've done a few websites for local companies in the area. And after that, a lot of my work has been focused really with EDD.
That's awesome.
Well, for the last 2 years, last 2 years it's been really difficult to try and get a lot of work done because we have something called sixth form here in the UK, which means the last 2 years of high school where it's very intense and a lot of content heavy. You're just there for 2 years learning so much stuff that it's actually very difficult to try and do anything else besides the studying. So trying to manage it all was difficult, especially getting tons of work every day.
So you kind of alluded in your article there that you weren't necessarily, you might have been kind of a bit of an outcast because you were so into tech stuff growing up and at such a young age. Can you tell us how kind of being involved in tech stuff has affected your life outside of, the web design and the work-related life?
Well, getting into the web was certainly very, very different because in the tech stuff I met, it was a strong focus on the hardware, how the computer runs, that kind of stuff. So then getting into web development was really something totally different for me. In that you're all of a sudden you're not focusing on the things that power it, you're focusing on the stuff that uses it more. So it did feel a bit strange at first because the WordPress community was big back then. It's even bigger right now. But trying to just fit into the space, at times it felt like I was in the wrong space because there were a lot of challenges that web development initially gave me as well. Because I was trying to work out how to do this clear fix or something like that. But it did feel odd initially that maybe the web isn't for me, maybe. So it didn't feel right at first, but because the community is also so welcoming, it's like you see this happening every other day, or every day even, how you see all these people getting into web development, and the community is so nice in that they can just hand them out with tutorials and resources everywhere to get everyone involved with it. So it did feel a little strange initially, but I did get into it soon after.
Awesome. I also wanted to kind of know. So you're not actually the youngest person we've ever had on, but you rank up there with one of the youngest. How important was social media and the other online communities in your ability to both learn development and in your general interaction, and how much of that would you say affects your life?
I'd say Twitter definitely has had the most impact on my web development career. A lot of people in the WordPress community use Twitter the most. Facebook is definitely more the personal side, and LinkedIn. I do have a LinkedIn which has everything I've done in the past, but I feel Twitter's been the best way to interact with developers because that's how initially, when I got involved with EDD, that's how Pippin sort of got me introduced into the community as well. And from then on, I got in touch with other developers. And then it was like following a certain set of developers that I could see were releasing all sorts of new content as well. You could see they were strongly focused in WordPress, and I felt it was they were really approachable as well. So you could just tweet them and they'd reply back, and you could start getting to know them online as well. So I think Twitter's had the most impact by far with social media, and I think it's going to remain that way because I think there is an advanced WordPress Facebook group. I see that as more of a forum, whereas on Twitter the developers can post their own thoughts and their ways and their tutorials as well as to how they would code certain things. And Twitter can be used as a forum as well, but I see a lot more developers on that than the advanced WordPress group, Facebook group for sure.
Sunny, can you look back and think of any great examples of nightmare projects that you've been involved in? Things that you look back and you just dread and you're glad they're over?
That would be definitely one of the clients that I was with was very, very difficult to work with. And I won't name him obviously, but it was I was actually really glad to be quite close with Pippin back then, who actually helped me out a lot. Obviously, I was 17, and then there was like the threat of being sued and solicitors getting involved and all sorts, and I was like, oh, I felt I was quite deep in that.
Wow.
And yeah, so Pippin, I was really glad to have Pippin help me out there, fix that up. And it was the common argument of I told you to do this, but you didn't do this, but initially, and then miscommunication, that kind of stuff, and then I'm not going to pay you anymore because I feel you haven't done the job correctly, that kind of stuff.
Oh man.
Yeah, so that was pretty intense.
Yeah.
And for a 16 or 17-year-old, it can be quite traumatizing.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure it was. Wow.
Yeah.
I'd be traumatized right now if somebody said that. Of course, I resort to violence a lot quicker than some people, so I'd probably punch them in the face and get sued. But yeah, I wouldn't want to get sued or even have it thread over my head.
Wouldn't want to get sued at 17, that's for sure.
Yeah. That'd be terrible. Wow. So you got through that project, and that's behind you.
Yeah, that was January of 2013, I want to say. January 2013, I think, yeah.
Okay. So everything's just fantastic now, right?
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Are you still doing any client projects at all?
Not at the moment. I want to get back into it very soon because I started university yesterday. So I want to see how much free time I have based on university, because obviously it's a lot more in the UK. University is easier than high school, believe it or not, and it's a lot more relaxed than high school, so that you have a lot more free time. So once I get into university, maybe in 2-3 weeks' time, so I know exactly how much time I'm spending on certain projects and assignments. I certainly want to get back into client work. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. So tell us a little bit about your schooling right now, what you're working on, where you're going, and I understand that you got accepted into a school you really wanted to go to. Is that right?
Yeah. So I enrolled right now at Queen Mary University of London, and I'm studying computer science. Well, that began yesterday. So they're teaching us Java there, and I wanted to study computer science from the beginning because like I've said from the beginning, I was interested more in the tech side, and that's what the computers. And I see this course sort of teaches us more about the tech side of things. There is a web element as well, and it sort of covers everything. But it should be in 3 years' time. I'll have a degree in computer science.
Nice.
So, what's your goal? What do you want to do with that degree?
I do want to go into professional programming. If not, I'd want to go into a full-time programming job, but I'd definitely like to stay close with the WordPress side of things as well. I'm still really interested in the web, and I still want to build for the web as well. I don't want to leave that behind me and go into machine programming, like, for example, Java or C++, something like that. I still want to have my close ties with the web.
So no spaceships or submarines?
No, I'm sadly not turning into an engineer. Just a computer scientist, not an engineer.
Fair enough, fair enough.
They're not too different.
So tell us, you've already brought in Pippin into the conversation, and tell us how'd you get involved with EDD, and what are you doing there now?
Well, EDD came up, like I said, Twitter was pretty amazing for WordPress. So I think it was like the early half of 2013. The early half of 2013, or 2012 was it? 2012. Early half of 2012, I think Pippin released the first beta of Easy Digital Downloads, and I saw that got a lot of traction all over Twitter. A lot of people were tweeting about it, a lot of people were interested by it. And the main question, I saw a lot of discussion happen regarding EDD and WooCommerce. So I was actually following it a lot, and I was seeing what was actually happening with it. And then I think in about July of that year, Pippin posted a blog post asking for development help because I think it was just him and at that time someone else called McFarlane, who I don't think's on the project anymore. But it was just the two of them on the project, and they were looking to get really serious about it, and they were just asking some help. So I thought, okay, now's the time to get involved with WordPress and try and do this properly. And so I posted a comment on his blog post saying I'd be happy to work on something, and just give me a list of what you want me to do. And well, that's how I kicked it off. Right now, I've done some themes for EDD. I've done a few plugins. I'm doing a lot of support right now, and based on, like I said, the free time of uni, I want to get back into core development as well. I did a substantial amount back in 2012, 2013 when I first got involved. There's a lot of time back then as well. But the last 2 years, it's been fairly low. But I do want to get full on back into core development as well.
Tell us about some of those plugins that you've made. Any that you're particularly proud of or that were very interesting to create?
Reviews. Reviews was the one I'm the most proud of, because that the system is quite complicated in the way it works, and there's a lot of aspects to it. So it's building. What it does is it allows your EDD store allows you to create a full-on reviewing system. So a bit like Amazon, where customers post reviews on the products they've purchased, and then other people can upvote them, downvote them. And I'm actually working on a really big update right now, which is due to be released really soon. I know I've been saying that for the last 2 months, but it is a huge update.
Yeah.
In that it's going to redefine the way the voting works, and it's going to redefine all the other. It's going to change the way how the system works, and it's going to be more faster, leaner, and a lot easier to work with. It will be out soon. It will be out soon, I promise, to anyone who's waiting for the update. But there's a lot of new features coming as well, and it's going to have strong integration with Chris Christoph's front-end submissions, which is very popular, and a lot of people have been asking for a lot of features. It has been coded up, guys. It has been coded up.
Well, that's a lot of projects. So it sounds like when you find out what free time you've got, there's a long list of things you want to get more involved in, with updating your plugins and core development and client work and this and that.
Yeah, there's a huge update coming to PDF invoices as well. I sort of worked on them concurrently throughout the summer, and well, both of them are nearly at finishing stages, and then they just need to be heavily tested.
I know those are some popular extensions.
Yeah.
Does this kind of help pay for your expenses and things like that while you go to school?
Yeah, definitely. EDD has helped me out a lot in terms of expenses over the last 2-3 years.
Yeah.
I'd never imagined to make the amount I have done selling all this software. I would never imagined it. Because when PDF invoices first went live, it was within, I think, 2 minutes I got a text message from Pippin saying you made your first sale, and I was like ecstatic about that, and I thought maybe I'll make like a few more and that'll be it. But I'm sure you've seen from Pippin's year reviews as well, that ED has like grown exponentially. So we're seeing a lot of sales every day on all these plugins, and it's like it's really great feeling every time you've made a sale as well, that someone else is using your software out there to power their own store and make money for themselves.
Exactly. It's extremely powerful. Wow. Are there any extensions kind of like on your mind, or other plugins that like you're looking forward to creating?
There is one which I'm going to start coding up soon. I've got the logic worked out for it, but it's an advanced product search where we're going to be allowing all sorts of filtering to happen for customers. This would mainly be aimed at businesses with a lot of items in their stores, so they can add their own custom metadata to each of the posts, and then that should all be filtered as well. It's basically building a really large version, or a small-scale version of Google on your site, but just for your products on your EDD store. So I have the logic mapped out for it, but now it's all writing it all in code.
So you also do some support work as well, answering tickets for EDD?
Yeah.
So what are some examples of tickets that you find particularly challenging?
PayPal adaptive payments. You can say exactly the same, Kyle. PayPal adaptive payments.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, describe what that is.
PayPal adaptive payments is PayPal's way of, for example, in sense of, if we imagine a website like Kickstarter, so Kickstarter, you pledge an amount of money for it, and if the funding is successful, then only the funds are taken out. So you're splitting the payments, and then you have other things like chained payments where they're linked to multiple accounts, so multiple people get paid from one certain sale. And then there's parallel payments, and there's all sorts with PayPal adaptive payments. It's a very complicated system. We get customers asking about it when they're trying to replicate something like Kickstarter for their own website. A great example, I think, is the Marketify theme by the guys at Appify. Adam Pickering, he's done a theme that sort of integrates PayPal adaptive payments right into the theme, where you can set up your own products and you can set up how much money you want for it. So it's effectively creating Kickstarter on your own site. And when we get tickets asking about adaptive payments, obviously it's a very complex system, so we have to go read it up ourselves all the time, and it's always a dead block for me. I don't know about you, Kyle, but every other day we'll see one ticket and we'll just be like, ah, adaptive payments again.
Well, EDD is pretty widely used. Are any of your extensions being used in places where you might be surprised, other countries, or in ways that you might have been surprised?
We have seen a lot of custom projects now and again. Obviously, it is used worldwide by a lot of different people. So we have, I know that for a fact because we get a lot of requests for translation packs to be released for EDD in different languages. But it's widely used around the world. I'm yet to see something which is ridiculously customized from the original product itself, so much so that they've totally gone overboard and changed the whole functionality of the system. But a lot of our customers use the core product itself, and then what they do is when they buy the extensions, they customize it themselves. A lot of the popular ones are front-end submissions and software licensing. So front-end submissions basically creates your own marketplace like Amazon or eBay, where you get vendors who can upload their own products, they can set their prices, and they manage their entire store through EDD, and there'll be one person who's in charge of the store. And then software licensing is where you can generate license codes for all your software that you want to distribute, which allows updates and allows you to subscribe to a certain member's site. We use this in all our plugins right now at EDD, where we provide license codes every time someone purchases a plugin, and that gives them 1 year of support and 1 year of updates. And each year we allow renewals. So we see those two are very, very popular. And we've seen examples with in actual desktop software as well with that. So examples in people using C# and C++.
That's interesting. So what's next? Are you planning anything else in regards to your EDD work? Any other, aside from the updates you've already mentioned, any new plugins or extensions you're planning on bringing in?
I'm planning the main big plugin, which is Advanced Product Search, and I am going to hopefully release a few more themes. Where we really want to, at EDD, we really want to kickstart our theme business again. So we really want to get it out there. We want a lot of people using our themes. We're hoping to build a few more themes.
That'll be great. So, kind of changing gears a little bit. You're located in London, that's correct?
Yeah.
So, tell us a little bit about the WordPress community locally in your area.
I am ashamed of myself to say I haven't attended a WordCamp yet, but I am dates considering because I'm still waiting for my semester timetable for semester B. I really want to attend they bring it here, I think it's the Day of the REST API. that was announced a few weeks ago by Brian on Post Status, and I'd really want to attend that event and start mingling with the community, so to speak, because there is a strong WordPress community in London, and I've definitely seen invites for the meetups, but obviously school being a barrier, it is difficult to attend a lot of the meetups for, say, the whole weekend, especially based on all the ton of work they give it. But like I said, schedule permitting, I would be looking to definitely go to WordCamp London next time it's hosted here, and definitely be looking to going into Day of the REST API, which is only actually 10 minutes away from where I'm living right now. It's going to be hosted very close to where I am.
That's great. Are there meetups held in London?
There are, but I haven't seen a lot lately. I may be wrong, but I haven't seen a lot lately.
Okay. Interesting. So when it comes to the WordPress community, who are some examples of some people who inspire you, or who have helped and inspired you along the way? You've already mentioned a couple names like Pippin and Chris Coyer and some of their work and things like that, but who's really kind of like helped move you along the path, move you forward in this path?
I would definitely say, well, two people. One, definitely Tom McFarlane, because reading his tutorials are probably the highest quality tutorials I've ever read. And another one I don't actually know personally, but Mark Jaquith. His reasoning behind how he writes certain code, obviously he has a very strong security focus, but his reasoning of how he writes the code is very fascinating, and just the way he codes itself is really interesting to read and debug and see how he did it. So his ways of coding are really good for anyone who wants to learn how to code. They always show an advanced way, but it's usually a good way as well, as opposed to another way of doing things. So Mark Jaquith and Tom McFarlane, both really great coders who have really inspired me.
Fantastic. So what kind of things do you do for fun, Sunny?
For fun? Oh, you put me on the ball here. I read quite a bit, actually. I guess that's my definition of fun. And I code a lot. I have very limited fun things. Read and code, basically. But in terms of fun, not much else really. I really need to get more active. That's, I say, every year, and will happen a little bit. But other than that, no, I can't really think of much else. Yes, every developer reads and codes.
Right.
So we've already talked about kind of career-wise. What else would you like to see yourself doing, maybe in 20 years or in the future? Anything particular in your personal life?
In my personal life, I definitely want to delve into research later on. So research into computing itself. So I'm quite interested with machine learning, artificial intelligence, and big data. I definitely want to do something research-based further along the line, that's for sure. And that might entail maybe a PhD in computer science itself, or maybe just doing research for a company. But definitely going down the research route further on the line. Not just yet, but when I have a stronger grasp of computer science itself as a subject, I'd definitely like to do that. In terms of a career-wise, I would eventually, it'd be nice to have, I'd like to run my own business. Could be web design, it could be a consultancy business, but eventually I'd like to run my own business and sort of get myself out there a bit more and provide services for the web and tech community and the community in general.
What do you think you need to do before you can make that possible, make your business a reality?
Well, nowadays, opening a business isn't that difficult, but I definitely say I'd need the right contacts in that you'd need running it by yourself. I think as a business, I think I'd definitely need maybe 2 or 3 other people working alongside me. Initially, running it by myself might be a bit difficult. I think I may be wrong, but I get to experience it. But and probably I definitely need to brush up on my WordPress for a while because it's been a while since I've done a full-on gig. So brush up on WordPress a bit, and really I'd read into one guy's to blog a lot, and that's Chris Lemmer. I hope I've pronounced that correctly. But Chris Lemmer's blog is absolutely fantastic because he himself works in business law. He works for Crowd Favorite, I believe, right now. But just reading his blog posts in general and how he makes his decisions, how he reasons with day-to-day decisions, it's really fascinating to read, and his mindset is phenomenal as to how he approaches things. So some of the key skills that he shares in his ebooks as well, I definitely want to look into that before I take a big step, because he seems to be the man with a lot of answers.
I think you mentioned messing with some other CMSs before you got involved in WordPress, or maybe you're toying with them still now. I'm not sure. But have you experienced any others? And if you were to say one of those, if you weren't using WordPress, would you use one of those?
I would not. I'd stick with WordPress. A lot of these were found on things like SourceForge, where it was effectively really basic content management systems where you set up the basic HT access rules of rewrite everything to index.php and then based on the URL go search the database, something. It was nowhere near on the scope of WordPress, and WordPress is very advanced right now. The possibilities are literally endless. So I definitely stick with WordPress, being with it, having used it for so long as well, and effectively generating an income out of it right now as well through my plugin and themes that I've released.
You totally stirred the question here. We wanted to see, WordPress was ripped out of society. What are you going to do?
If WordPress was ripped out of society, I don't know what I'd do. I'd lose all hope. I'd lose all hope. This podcast wouldn't exist anymore. It'd just be called Roundtable, not WP Roundtable.
Well, we could come up with another acronym for WP. I'm not sure what that is right now, but we'll think of one. Have it by the next episode.
I'm not so sure what I'd do if WordPress ceased to exist. I hope it doesn't come to that, but I'm not so sure what a lot of people would do. The amount of people that rely on WordPress itself. Yeah, let's hope we don't face that day.
So personally, I'm just hoping on Twitter to fail, and then we can move on and all be happy with life. But it appears that's not your wish.
I'm sure Matt Mullenweg won't be so happy about that.
Right. So, Sunny, thinking about other people your age.
Yeah.
I've got younger brothers your age, and they're trying to figure out what they want to do with their lives and trying to look for the appropriate career path to choose. If you've got buddies your age who are asking the question, what should I do? What's a good path to go on? Would you recommend the same path you're on, getting involved in WordPress and doing web development? Do you think that's for a lot of people? They're good opportunities, and how would you say that to them?
Well, the thing with the web is you need to actually have a strong interest, because getting into something like WordPress, you need to keep practicing, and you just need to keep practicing because there's so many different functions, there's so many different ways of doing things, in that you just need to keep at it. And the only way you can actually keep going at it is if you have maintained a strong interest, like you actually have the passion to carry on with it. It shouldn't be something that someone's forced to do, maybe because there's a lot of factors why someone might choose a job. It could be social, it could be the income, it could be anything. But I'd say only go down this path if you have some sort of strong interest in it, in that you want to carry on with it. You want to follow through with learning WordPress. You don't just want to learn the basics, create a really simple plugin. In that, once you've created that simple plugin, how else do you want to go and improve that plugin? What more can you do to that plugin? If you've written, say, one class, how can you improve that class? It was in terms of, if I was to offer tips to anyone who wanted to get involved, I would say go on and look at all these tutorial sites that are out there. There is like an abundant amount of resources out there just to get started in web development, that even if someone was questioning whether it's not for them, I'm sure if they viewed some of these tutorials and see what you could actually be capable of when you're writing some of this code, and if that really ticks your brain and you really want to get into it, then this is the right path. And go for it.
Wow. So how about you've come a little bit of ways. You know, a lot of people just getting started would look up to you. That you've already been able to successfully make themes that people are using, plugins that people are using and buying. You're already making money doing this. You're already making plugins that a lot of people are really, really excited to be using and buying. It's really, really cool. You've contributed to projects like EDD that are used by huge numbers of people. So for those people who are just kind of like getting started in the early stages and learning some of those tutorials and stuff like that, you know, what advice would you have to kind of help them get further along, get to that point where they're really making a living off of this?
Definitely get. I would say don't start off with. I would definitely say not start off with WordPress core. I'm sorry if that touched if that picked a few nerves there, but I'd say start off with something a little smaller. So there's loads of open source projects out there. You could just browse GitHub and look for a PHP project, and I'm sure a WordPress plugin would come up. And then if you just look through, say, their issues list or their pull request list, it could be something as simple as just reviewing a pull request and adding your own feedback. And then, you know, building it onto looking through their issue list, and maybe once every few weeks you decide to have a look at an issue and you realize there's something you could do, then go ahead and contribute to it, because if it's on GitHub, then I'm sure they want others to contribute to it as well. And as you get more and more confident with smaller plugins, you can work your way onto bigger plugins. So you could go onto mid-sized plugins, something which has a larger source code base, something you're more comfortable with looking through the source and understanding yourself. And then as you keep working your way up, that's when other people start recognizing you as well, because they'll see all this activity from you over GitHub, over Twitter, and that's when you're starting to, well, get known, if you know what I mean, in the community. And then I'd say delve into WordPress core, which is what I delved into WordPress core right at the end in terms of contributing. So if my change and pushed into core for a few releases, they're not major releases, major changes that I made, but they still got pushed into core, which I had to get props for, and I felt, well, that was an exciting time. But start off small, and well, you know what they say, you need to learn to walk before you can run. But I mean, because going into a big plugin at first can be daunting. It can almost scare you. So if someone started off, let's say if it was their first ever plugin, the first time they ever got involved in WordPress, and if they looked at EDD, then that would be a bit scary for them, I'd think, because it's such a large code base. There's a lot of things happening. Trying to keep track of everything, seeing what's happening, that would be difficult. So starting off with, say, a much smaller plugin, it could just be like a utility plugin, where it could be adding a few things, say the WordPress admin bar. And then as you sort of, you know, build up your knowledge as to, oh, this is what actions do, this is what filters do, that kind of stuff. Start small and then work your way up.
It's really good advice, Sunny.
Thanks.
So you said you like to read. What are some examples of some good books that you've read lately?
I've read a lot into computer science lately, actually. So things like The Cathedral and the Bazaar, the Code Book, and I've read a lot of logic books as well. So things like How to Think Like a Mathematician. I've read a lot of logic books. So breaking down certain problems, how you could, how different approaches to certain problems and the decisions you could make. But I do read a lot around computer science itself, yeah. And I have read a lot of the recommended. Well, I've obviously been browsing through Twitter, and when I see a book that someone recommends, I try and see a couple reviews about it, and then actually get full on reading into it. I do try to read a few. Lately, I've been reading a few JavaScript books because my JavaScript isn't as great as I want it to be, and I really do need to. Well, I haven't always been the biggest JavaScript fan, so I've been reading a lot into JavaScript. But in terms of other reading material, so away from informative reading material, I do like to read a lot into sci-fi and horror. Stuff like Angels vs. Demons, Da Vinci Code, that kind of stuff.
Wow.
I find that quite interesting.
Great. So I'm all over the place today, but when working at London comes around next, do you think you will put in a speaker application?
I think I would. I think when the next WordCamp comes along, dates permitting, I actually do want to put in a speaker application. I do want to get. I want to go to my first WordCamp and actually make my mark, so to speak.
What do you think you'll talk about?
I'm thinking it would be related something towards with EDD or even the WordPress REST API, because I've actually done a lot of reading into the WordPress REST API. I've even used it myself to do a few things. So based on how I feel, it'll either be EDD or the WordPress REST API. I feel like I could put together a talk about that.
All right. Cool. So, do you have any recommendations of people that you think would be great guests on our show in the future?
There are so many people in the community. There are a ton of people in the community now. I need to quickly go back and see. I'm not like repeating names now. But trying to think here. If not already, but I'm not. Jason Schiller. I hope I said that correctly. So I'm really bad at pronouncing names. This is one problem for anyone out there. If you really need to meet people so you know how to pronounce all their names correctly. You need to get out more. It can't always be Twitter. Jason Schiller, he did a lot of work with WordPress initially. So he used to have a company called Press75. He does project-based work right now. So a lot of his work's on GitHub, and it's all custom work that he's done by himself. But a lot of his initial work was WordPress, and Press75 was actually the themes he released were gorgeous, like very, very well refined themes.
And he eventually sold that company to Westward.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, that's correct.
Well, just so you know, the whole reason that we do this show is so that people actually know how to pronounce each other's names. There's no other point for the entire hour other than the build-up. So go ahead and tell us how to pronounce your name again.
Sunny Ratilal.
Okay, just making sure here. No.
My name's a difficult one to pronounce, granted. My name's a difficult one to pronounce.
How do you measure success, both personally and professionally? And of course, what are your standards for success in the educational environment, too, since that's where you are right now?
I am very strongly academic, so I have high expectations of myself, and I like to maintain those expectations in that I do work intensively hard. That does sound really vain of me, but I've been told by other people as well that I do work maybe a bit too hard at times when it comes to education, but I set myself the highest standards and the expectations, so I want to follow those through. But success success can mean a variety of things for everyone, really. For me, success is me shipping software and other people using that software. That's more than enough success for me. And if there's someone else out there using my software that and they're benefiting from that, I find that success. And it doesn't have to be monetary, so it doesn't have to impact me in terms of I get more money out of it, or it just has to be, it's just the feeling you get when you realize there's other people out there you're helping to build their own businesses or whatever they're doing with EDD or WordPress in general.
That's pretty sweet. I really like how you explain that. So, Sunny, we talked just a little bit about it, but just more specifically, direct to the point. Anything specific on your calendar other than a day of rest and other events? Is there anything that you really plan on attending where someone might bump into you?
It might. Well, anything I plan to attend would be a WordCamp next year, because I was going to try and make it for WordCamp US in December, or the other word is WordCamp US or USA. I don't know what they stuck with in the end, but
US.
It was a week. It was a week before university finished up the first semester, and there were a ton of exams running that week. Otherwise, I really would have wanted to come to that. But I'm definitely going to try next summer to attend a few over in the States. So Pippin and the rest of the EDD team, even you, Kyle, can finally meet me. Yeah, that's one thing. I've never actually met anyone at who I've worked with yet, ever. So I've never met Pippin at all. All our communication has been fully via Skype or Google Hangouts.
Well, if it makes you feel better, Pippin and I have never met in person either, actually. Or most of the other members on the EDD team.
Yeah. I definitely need to meet Pippin, for sure.
Yeah.
Within next year, I have to meet the whole team, for sure.
For sure. Forgive me. My family's watching a football game in the other room, and I guess it's getting interesting. So, go Packers. Sunny, it's been an awesome hour talking with you. Really interesting discussion.
My pleasure.
I really look forward to meeting you in the future if you make it into the States or somehow I make it over to the UK. Is there anything that you wanted to touch on or share that we didn't get to talk about?
I think everything there is to know about me has been said in this 1 hour, which shows how much there is to know about me. It's all been covered in an hour.
Sure. Well, we feel very privileged to have had the time to talk with you.
No, thank you for having me on. Thank you for having me on.
I wish you the best with this semester. Hope you'll have lots of free time to continue working on a lot of the great projects you're involved in. And wish you all the best with your future. So, thanks a lot, Sunny.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, and hope to keep in touch with you.